4-day workshop moderated by the BCRC Caribbean kicked off with a critical focus: strengthening the implementation of the Rotterdam Convention and bolstering trade control measures for Caribbean small island developing states. Following introductory remarks from Mr. Anand Maraj, Acting Director of BCRC Caribbean, Mr. Mario Yato of Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and Mr. Sanjay Singh, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Planning, Economic Affairs and Development, delegates from 13 regional nations participated in a foundational overview of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions. Led by the BRS Secretariats Jacqueline Wenjuru and Just Ditchrist, the opening sessions mapped out the key legal provisions and regulatory mechanisms dictating chemical safety. By afternoon, the floor opened to the nations themselves to outline their distinct institutional frameworks, local progress, and persistent restrictions. Leading the charge, Guyana's team highlighted their aggressive push to strengthen regional pesticide management, reporting that more than 21 tons of obsolete pesticides and persistent organic pollutants have already been safely isolated and disposed of.
So we quarantine the products, confiscate, and when the importers are able to properly register the products, especially if it's pesticides, because that's more detrimental to human health and the environment. Until they're able to properly register the product, then we're able to release it.
But hitting these international targets is not without its roadblocks. For Barbados, compliance has exposed structural gaps, particularly when it comes to standardizing the definition of waste across major economic sectors and finding efficient ways to gather data.
Yes, we do submit our annual reports routinely, but there's certainly some aspects of the annual report for which we are unable to collect the information at this stage. And that's also associated with the fact that there's no legislation that mandates the industries to provide that information to us. And given our limited human resources, it's very difficult to run around behind around 3,000 different industries, companies, etc., to collect information, particularly when there's no legal requirement for them to make that information available to us.
Meanwhile, the Bahamas is tackling the issue through safety education. Spurred by a recent project designed to train local agencies on the critical importance of wearing personal protective equipment, the country is stepping up its alignment with the conventions by advocating for safer handling and disposal of toxic chemical waste.
Out of a workshop that happened in, I think it was March, where they were improving the hazardous waste management, our dump. Let me take that back, sorry. Our landfill. Our landfill created an e-leaf certification. So essentially, when you have Cable Bahamas or any electronic company, when they bring in telephones, when they bring in modems, when they bring in all these devices, what happens when they phase these out? So essentially, Cable Bahamas, they signed on to the e-leaf certification, and that essentially that happens when they would bring in all of their modems, all of their TV boxes at the landfill. They would properly dispose and export those items instead of them doing actions that are untoward for the environment.
Shifting the spotlight to agriculture, St. Kitts and Nevis is zeroing in on chemical controls. Local authorities are actively working to tighten the grid on both the import and export of pesticides.
We have a pesticide and toxic chemical control board. We are both members of that board. And as it relates to the importation, that has to be done by application. So nothing comes into the country chemical or pesticide related, and that includes schools, unless you have written permission from the board. If it comes in, we have good relations with customs and excise in the form of MOUs, and as a small country as well, we interact very closely. So those items are seized and stored at customs until we decide what to do with them, of course.
Trinidad and Tobago is confronting its own infrastructural hurdles head-on. Lacking a specialized hazardous examination bay, the Twin Island Republic is currently fast-tracking plans to construct a dedicated secure storage facility.
The land itself has been allotted, and I think they're currently in the process of tendering for someone to actually do the construction. So there's hope on the horizon in that regard.
Similar operational bottlenecks and regulatory gaps have slowed down implementation in Suriname. However, delegation representatives made it clear that fixing these systematic issues is a top priority on their national agenda.
We have an institutional gaps, the fragmented responsibility across the ministries, limited coordination and communication, and storage of hazardous waste. Capacity constraints, limited technical expertise, insufficient financial resources. Then we have regulatory and enforcement gaps. We have incomplete alignment with BRS requirements, weak enforcement and compliance mechanism, limited inspections and control system. Last, we have data and reporting issues, limited data on chemicals and waste, weak reporting to convention secretariats, sorry for that, lack of national databases.
Rounding out the regional perspective, St. Lucia laid bare its own challenges, noting that severe capacity constraints continue to spread local environmental agencies thin.
Fragmented and outdated legislation limits our implementation of convention requirements. Hazardous waste regulations and tracking system is very limited, so that constrains our ability to control hazardous waste and report as we should, as comprehensively as we should under the Basel Convention. Controls over hazardous chemicals trade remains limited, particularly in the absence of a formal PIC procedure under the Rotterdam Convention. We also have capacity constraints, technical capacity constraints enforcement. We only have one inspector to serve the entire island, and that post has not been filled for over, Mr. Alexander, I think it's more than 5 years, and that function is being carried out by officers who have other substantive duties.
Day 1 successfully set the stage, moving from broad international treaty frameworks to the harsh realities of distinct regulatory challenges faced by individual Caribbean islands on the ground.